Hey everyone, it's me, and welcome back to this channel on narcissism. Today we're going to talk about a vulnerable narcissist. What does that mean? Who is that? And if you're new here, please subscribe. So what is a vulnerable narcissist? I'm sure you've heard the term narcissist thrown around quite a bit. In fact, many people use it as an insult, don't they? You're such a narcissist. But actually, being a narcissist isn't an insult. It's a clinical term that describes a certain personality style characterized by a grandiose sense of self-importance, a need for admiration, and a lack of empathy. But not all narcissists are created equal. There's actually a spectrum of narcissism, and one of the lesser-known types is the vulnerable narcissist. So who is that? A vulnerable narcissist is someone who is extremely sensitive to criticism, and can become very defensive and even paranoid when they perceive any kind of threat. They may be hypersensitive to rejection and abandonment, and will often lash out with anger or rage when they feel like they're being attacked. A lot of times people will say, "I'm not a narcissist, I'm just sensitive." Well, that hypersensitivity is actually a key characteristic of the vulnerable narcissist. They may appear introverted rather than extroverted like other narcissists, and they may not be as outgoing or charismatic. But behind that introverted facade, they're just as narcissistic as any other type. Some researchers believe that vulnerable narcissism is actually more common than overt narcissism, but it often goes unrecognized because people see them as introverted and shy. They may be viewed as weak or meek, and therefore not narcissistic at all. But that's actually far from the truth. People who are vulnerable narcissists are just as manipulative and self-centered as other narcissists. They may use guilt-tripping or playing the victim to get their way. They may also be very vindictive and hold grudges for years. If you ever interact with a vulnerable narcissist, it's important to remember that they're not introverts and they're not shy. They're simply narcissists in sheep's clothing. They may seem harmless, but they can be just as damaging as any other type of narcissist. So that was a quick introduction to the vulnerable narcissist. And as always, thanks for watching.